But this talk is going to be a little bit of a retrospective of my journey over the past 2 years since I joined Intercom. Some friends in the industry and internally have asked me how did I go and approach about getting our London site to what it is today. And this is a reflection of what I think are the key elements that have helped us get up and running very, very quickly and delivering substantial impact to the business. Let me give you, just to start with very quickly, a little bit of context about the business so you have a little bit of an idea of what we're working with here. Oh, hold on. Here we are. So a little bit over 2 years ago, my manager and VP of Engineering, Dara Curran, and our SVP of Product, Paul Adams, decided to start an experiment, like many companies do as they are growing. At the time, Intercom was a really fast-growing SaaS startup, and we were close to getting our last round of funding for our Series D that resulted in a valuation of the business of over $1 billion. I don't know what's happening with my, okay. So some of you might be familiar with Intercom, or you might have experienced our messenger when interacting with an online business. Some of you might be customers, so let me know if any of you want to chat more about that later on. It looks like this. I'm having a bit of trouble with moving the slides, but hopefully you keep me. Our mission is making internet business personal, and our brand promise is that we can help you grow through enabling better relationships with your customers. And we believe that that should be done through a messenger first experience. While Intercom has 5 offices around the world today and around 600 employees, at the time, just over 2 years ago, all product development was done from our Dublin office, where the founders were originally from and where Dara and Paul ran product and engineering. The experiment was exploring building a new product and engineering team in London. And this way, kind of the growing business could take advantage of the larger talent pool that we have kind of obviously in London. Another reason why they chose London was because of the close proximity with Dublin, so that travel and collaboration should be fairly manageable, especially during the forming years of the office. There you go. So they seeded the team with a PM, a senior engineer from Dublin, and hired the rest of the team in London, designer and engineers. And what you can see here is the first team in London just formed, helping with the launch of a large messenger redesign from our initial WeWork office in Shoreditch very soon after kind of they had just joined the company. So hiring in London was very successful from the beginning for us. We've hired a fantastic team, and the close collaboration with folks from the Dublin office was also paying off. It looked like we were into something and decided to commit to building a product and engineering office here. A few months, when I say here, I'm in Edinburgh just now, so I'm just I have my head in London, but I'm talking to you all from, it's sunny today, Edinburgh. So a few months later, they moved to our current office in Old Street that you can see here in the pictures, and with bigger plans for London, they set out to find product and engineering leaders to grow and co-lead this site. And that's where my product partner Jane and I come in. So that's us working from the office. I have almost forgotten how the office looks like after this long, and it looks like we're going to be working from home till about June. So I don't know if that's the same situation for you all. I joined Intercom almost 2 years ago. My goal was turning this successful experiment into a culturally aligned and very productive, self-sufficient as much as possible, and thriving office with a big part to play in achieving Intercom's ambitious growth goals as a business. So not a bad challenge. I've been an engineer for almost 20 years. I have worked at different types of companies, public and private, really big and really small, co-located and distributed. Some of them very successful, other ones not so successful. But for 7 years, prior to joining Intercom, I had held senior leadership positions at very fast growing companies, and had experienced firsthand the challenges of building engineering organizations in that context. So I had seen the good and the ugly, from having to hire an org super quickly to having to dramatically reduce headcount to being part of a successful IPO and acquisition. So a little bit of everything. During my career, however, I've learned to really appreciate three things. The first one is the kind of sense of progress and achievement, kind of that what I'm doing matters and actually makes a difference. Do I feel like I'm solving meaningful problems? If I don't, I'm not that excited about what I'm doing. I also value the opportunity to learn and always challenge myself. I thrive on constant sense of improvement, so both as an engineer, as a manager, or as a leader. But probably what I appreciate the most is kind of the safety of a fun and healthy environment where I enjoy going to work every day. So where I truly kind of feel that I belong and can rely on others to achieve our goals together. I don't know you, but during trying times like the ones just now, it has really amplified the need for that even more. And when those things come together, I feel that the feeling is pretty magical, and I really want that for those around me and working with me. So joining Intercom to lead the London team was a great opportunity to put into practice what I had learned over the years growing engineering teams, and mixing that with some of the best practices building product my peers in Dublin were clearly demonstrated, and that I was excited to be exposed to. As I mentioned earlier, I want to share kind of how we work, the ways that it has allowed us to go from zero to actually owning and successfully delivering a critical part of our business and our product strategy. In London, we are responsible for all of our support solutions, which is a big part of the business today. The timing is also pretty perfect. I'm a little bit kind of recovering from, just did a big launch last week with some of the biggest improvements that we've made to date in our support tools to help businesses to deliver great customer service at scale. And this work has been mostly led from London. And despite all the challenges we've all experienced over the last 6 months, like all the stressful environment in the world and having to completely change how we collaborate. We traditionally have been more office-based and face-to-face collaboration. So now we are, as I'm sure probably all of your companies, working from home overnight while dealing with severe capacity constraints. So that's been an interesting journey the last 6 months. But it was clear from the moment that I met my boss that we share this common bias for progress. At Intercom, we believe that shipping is our company's heartbeat, and that shipping brings life to our teams, to our product, and to our customers. And we believe that shipping unlocks kind of that much required feedback loop that confirms and challenges our assumptions and makes actual things possible. It makes things move forward. And we ship a lot. We push to production about 100 times a day, and it's very much kind of how we like to operate. When we talk about shipping, that doesn't mean that it's just about the technical aspect of the process of deploying to production. It's about the quick evolution of our product. And a great product is only possible if it's built by a well-functioning group of people with common goals. It's not about shipping just for the sake of shipping. So this trainer, one of our founders and our chief strategy officer, always says internally that that great companies consist of three ingredients, kind of people, product, and profit. We call it the 3 Ps. And he says that if you can get the people right, then you'll get the product. If you can get the product, then you'll get the profit. The challenge for the new London team was to continue to quickly grow, and all that implies, kind of interviews, onboarding, team disruption as you form and reform the teams all over again all the time, while keeping a fast cadence of progress, kind of solving critical customer problems, and therefore contributing to our revenue growth. All that while being led by 2 brand new leaders that we were just getting up to speed with the business and learning to work with each other and with the leadership teams in Dublin and San Francisco. So Jane and I were responsible and are responsible for both the running of the site, kind of cultural alignment with the rest of Intercom. We are the senior leaders representing the business in London and are responsible for the strategy and execution of our areas of ownership. I mentioned earlier on kind of our support business, while contributing to the overall global leadership team. So Jane runs research at large, and I lead our R&D operations and growth and recognition programs for engineering. So we needed to figure out how to make that work quite quickly. I am a very goal-oriented person. Anybody that knows me knows that. And if I've learned one thing over time, is that to achieve something, you really need to know what you are aiming for. And then point everybody in that direction and bring them along with you. Otherwise, kind of things don't happen. So to fulfill a goal, you need clarity around the mission that you are on. You can afford misunderstandings. My priority as a leader was very much, in joining the team, was gaining a very deep understanding of the mission of the business and what we were ultimately trying to do, and align with the exec team on that. In the past, when that has not been clear, I've made it a priority to help define that with my peers. So without a destination, it's very hard to choose a path that you want to go on. As I mentioned earlier on, our mission is making internet business personal. And our brand promise is that we can help you grow, as I said, through enabling better relationships with your customers. So that alone, that little sentence, tells you already a lot about what we should or not should be doing when it comes to building solutions. And we should steer clear of anything that might undermine our goal. And this is a really important topic, especially for Jane and me and our teams, to deeply explore and understand. As we're responsible for building our chat box experiences. So how do we do that in a way that doesn't go against our principles as a business, and also kind of our team-made productivity tools? So we need even that high level of guidance is super useful for us to make decisions on the way that we operate. And this is how we translate that mission and vision to our day-to-day work. So from a clear mission and vision, we create and communicate a very clear strategy with a time horizon of about 2 to 3 years. And that covers, for example, what problems we want to be solving for our customers, but also with a clear understanding of who those customers are, who is the target audience, because that might completely change how you approach solving those problems. But also, where do we want to be financially, and how do we want Intercom to look like as a company, from a people point of view in that time horizon as well. And from that strategy, we identify a number of programs of work led by a specific leader normally, and that normally involves multiple teams and groups that are going to be tackling that specific piece of work. Here in London, we drive one of those company-wide strategic programs, and our teams, in collaboration with other parts of the business, are involved in shaping and executing that program strategy. strategy. So we have product, engineering, analytics, product marketing, biz ops, sales, all of them working together to define the product and how the go-to-market strategy should work for that body of work. So a clear strategy at the company and the program level really allow us to set priorities and focus and agree on outcomes. So how do things look like today? What revenue are we aiming for? Who's the target customer, as I just said, and what problems are they facing? What specific problems are we going to target and solve for them specifically? And it forces us to be really explicit about our choices and priorities, so teams can really understand the constraints and then come up with the solutions themselves. So we communicate those plans through accessible documentation, bi-weekly company all hands, and more specific information that is shared at the function or site level. So for my teams, we do deep dives in our programs of work monthly for the programs that we're trying to run, work that impact, like we talk about that impact more closely with them. Maybe we go into more detail. But before we get into translating that strategy and priorities into a plan, and I'll talk you a little bit how we go through that. There are a few critical aspects at this kind of company and function high level that I think is very, very important for all of us to align on, or for your teams to align on as well. And you might not think that those are as critical, but from my personal experience, without a shared understanding, it's nearly impossible to move fast and sustainably within your organization. So what are those things? So for me, as important as understanding the direction that we're going towards is understanding how we should behave during that journey. So what values do we need to demonstrate? Your values, I see them as the fuel to your strategy and should aid you in achieving your mission. So if you optimize for a value, hopefully it's because you believe that it will ultimately make you more successful at achieving your goal, not just because it looks nice to say that we believe in those things. You know, they have to be very intentional, the values that you choose. And values are powerful if lived, only are useful if lived and used by everybody. And disregarding values quickly undermines the credibility of the leaders of a company that don't live them or enforce them. So it's not just about you demonstrating them, it's you making sure as a leader that everybody you're responsible for are also doing so. We have a great book that explains clearly what they are, and everyone goes through an in-depth session when they join to make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about here. We refer to them all the time and look for evidence of alignment during our hiring processes, but most importantly, our performance evaluations. That's something that we look quite thoroughly into. You will also see them represented in some of our execution guiding principles. And let me tell you a little bit more about this, because this is quite key for us as well. Principles are not as globally applicable as values. So values are company level. Principles can be more function specific. So they are a way of encoding success kind of at the function level, so that they help you to repeat the behaviors that led to a positive outcome and avoid other previous behaviors that led to some mistakes. So it gives us a common framework and language to understand how we approach our work as an organization, as an engineering organization, as an R&D organization. At Intercom, codifying our experience and lessons learned resulted in our shared principles and processes. And as you face different constraints and challenges, you might want to evolve them. So values tend to be much more permanent, but principles you can adapt as you're changing a little bit your strategy in the long term. We've actually just gone through a slight iteration of our R&D principles to reflect some things that we've learned that we want to value more. These are our R&D principles. We call R&D product and engineering, so it's not like your traditional just research and development function. For us, R&D is all of product and engineering at Intercom. And you will rarely find someone at Intercom R&D start working on something without having clearly understood and concisely explained the problem they are trying to solve. That is our number one principle. Start with the problem and have a deep understanding of what we're trying to do. We also think ambitiously, but aim for the smallest coherent solution that provides value, and we ship it as soon as possible so that we can understand kind of the outcomes, and we can see kind of whether we're moving in the right direction. So the sooner we ship, the sooner we get feedback on our assumptions. And we know that when we don't apply these principles, things don't tend to go so well for us. We tend to waste time and effort on a solution that doesn't solve a problem or moves the needle, creates a lot of confusion between the people working on it. Why are we doing this? What is that about? Or we miss the opportunity to understand a critical dependency maybe in the system. And Intercom is all interconnected, all the functions, everything connects with everything. So we need to think big to make sure that we understand how any changes that we make are impacting the whole system, and how our customers are going to use the product before it's too late. So what is our work? This feels very much like, okay, that's company level, but why is that so important for us as engineering leaders? So what is our role here in engineering in the business? Why do we need, in our case, like about 170 engineers across multiple locations? If you are a CTO or a senior technical lead in your org, what are you responsible for? So for me and my peers, we believe that we built Intercom. That's kind of what we're here to do. And our focus is in 3 areas. So we support and improve the health of our existing revenue lines. That's our existing products. So for example, we protect our availability. We address quality issues with our existing products. We reduce our operational costs if they get out of hand. We improve our purchase flow. We mitigate security risks. So that's all part of kind of supporting our existing revenue. We also help add new revenue lines for the business by building new products and functionality. And the third one might not be as obvious, but for us it's a top category, and it's important that we are intentional about it. We believe we're here also to improve our ability to do the previous 2. So we call it protecting our ability to move fast. And we might build, because of that, a design system, continuous deployment tools, etc. But when we do it, we have a clear goal in mind. We have a developer velocity program that allow us to make decisions about where we should invest and measure its effectiveness. Let me get some water. Cool. So without a clear understanding of the priorities of the business, kind of the outcomes that we're trying to achieve, and the constraints that we have as a business, it's pretty difficult to execute effectively and efficiently and make the right trade-offs when it comes to us to making decisions. And I don't know you, if there's one thing I do all day long, is assessing trade-offs and like, okay, this or that, why would we choose this versus this other effort? So We think about when, where, and at what level we should hire. You're making trade-offs there. Should we optimize for cutting operational costs? Actually, maybe that's not the most valuable thing to do, and optimizing for expansion, it might be more important than managing costs at a given point in time. Should I prioritize addressing technical debt in a system that will be crucial in the long term for the business? That might be actually a good idea, even if you can't see an immediate benefit. Actually, fixing bugs that are causing churn on some customers, or responding quickly and reprioritizing, kind of bringing forward some of the things in your roadmap to respond to a request of a feature that a critical customer is asking for. It might be the right thing to do and the most impactful thing that you can do as a leader, and cost you the least effort. So without understanding that bigger picture, it's pretty hard to make the right call for leaders or for engineers, because you're not there always with them to make those calls, and actually they have to also make those calls all the time when they jump, should I fix this bug or this other bug? And having that bigger picture really helps them to make those decisions autonomously. So when we have access to all of those inputs, when the priorities are clear and we understand the problems better, we can start prioritizing those initiatives in our roadmaps and start building more concrete plans and solutions. So we build quarterly plans, so we have every 3 months a roadmap that we commit to, and it's one per team. There are 4 inputs that go into our roadmap rationale documents. What we use to inform what ultimately will make it to the team roadmaps, and are these 4. So we think about what is the information, the inputs from a strategic direction that we should take into account. Any product gaps for existing and new customers that are causing churn or preventing us from closing deals. Is this product health issues that we need to handle and that can have a big impact in the product availability or risks? And is there any specific revenue targets or goals that we have that we should be able to respond to and help achieve? And teams are responsible for taking all those inputs into account and any other constraints the team has. And then they have to explain the reasoning for getting from an input, from those inputs to a roadmap, and what are they prioritizing and optimizing for, and why. And that's not just a PM. You might think that's the PM's role. The PM for us represents the team, but we expect the whole team to be involved and on board with their recommendations and the final roadmap proposed. Especially like an anti-pattern that I'm sure you're all familiar with is the typical comment around, hey, we never get to work on improving our systems because we're always prioritizing these product features. So the way to get away from that is like have engineering and product working together to decide what is the most meaningful work and impact that the team can have. So what I say to engineers is like, make the case. You have a chance to influence what the team is going to be working on. Why is that work more important than something else that maybe product or other parts of the business are asking for? So you need to put, as an engineer, your business hat on and tell us what is their smart investment to make based on your understanding of the risks, the opportunities, and short and long-term business goals and customers' needs. And once a team can get behind the roadmap because they've all taken part, it's so much easier to make progress and just remove some of the nonsense of like, why are we doing this? What's happening here? We consider, and we even go a little bit farther, and we call ourselves product engineers. And that just sounds petty, but it's quite meaningful for us. Before our engineers start to think about solutions, they are expected to first seek to identify, to define, and to understand that problem as per our R&D principle of start with the problem. We also have 5 engineering-specific principles that we use to decide how we build the solution. So now we're going one level kind of lower to implementation. The first one is that we never blindly execute on requirements defined by others. So we help define the solutions which efficiently deliver value, and we expect every single engineer, regardless of their level, to be critical of the work that they do. And that's why we organize ourselves, this is a picture of pre-pandemic, doesn't look like this just now, into self-sufficient cross-functional teams. So normally we have a product manager, a product designer, an engineering manager, and about 4 to 6 engineers seems to be the sweet spot for us. We also have researchers and analysts that might also be embedded in the team, or at least at the group level if we can have dedicated support. We work across disciplines and expect everyone to support each other and contribute to those solutions. And teams make commitments, as I said, as a whole. So if we are short, for example, of research capacity in a project, but we feel we really need that insight and those answers, then an engineer might just step up and fill the gap if needed with some guidance from the experts, but there's no reason that we should be blocked because there's no some researcher available for us to get the answers that we need. And to promote momentum, we then break the roadmaps into more specific goals. So we break our milestones into 6-week cycles of work. So roadmaps at that point turn into outputs, new features that we're building, and eventually will be outcomes, kind of more revenue or activations, etc. The teams measure progress on a daily and weekly basis, and we showcase that progress at a company-wide show and tell every Friday. So there's a healthy culture of showing your work in progress and what progress you're making in things. And as we close the week, we then get together to retrospect and plan the following week based on any learnings or new constraints and opportunities. So if we need to change plans, we're happy to do it based on what we've learned. That's kind of why we move, why we ship all the time and talk to customers all the time. And this is more like it looks today, not the other one. So this process might look just one way, but it's a two-way road, and I think that's super important. What we learn from our work, and each team learns from their work, and our customers goes back up the way so that it can influence kind of whether it's next week's goals or even future strategy for the business. So if you want your organization to do work that matters, like be transparent as you can, and share very clearly what it is that is important, and help them identify how they can contribute, then break it down to achievable and measurable goals so that they can make every day count, and you can build some momentum. But knowing what to do, like setting those goals, as I said before, is not enough. We believe that it's through agreed processes and principles, and we've talked a little bit about that we are able to make those plans a reality in an efficient way. And our processes for us is our way of making sure that we stick to our principles. And I'll show you how that looks like. They are there because of things we've learned and help us truly operate according to our principles. And more importantly, it allows teams to operate autonomously as much as possible, knowing they are focusing on the right things, and they can make every day count without getting validation and approval all the time from more senior leaders. So we are very opinionated about our processes, and we tend to stick to them. Sometimes you make explicit trade-offs. There's always good reasons why you might break away from the process. But you might think that processes might slow us down, but I truly believe it's the opposite. And a good process is there to speed you up, and a process that slows you down is just not doing its job, at least for us, since we are optimizing for momentum. Maybe you want to be, if you're working in a very regulated environment, maybe you want a process that slows you down for good reasons, but for us it's about momentum. And most projects will go through these 3 phases. We have the setup phase, the solve phase, and the closeout phase. And then we have some stages, 3 stages within each of those phases. So during the setup phase, we make sure that we fully understand the problem. So we build a 1-page document that clearly states what we want to solve and how we'll know we've been successful. We understand the opportunities as well to solve and how it impacts the rest of the system. And we work with product marketing on the story, because there's no point on building something that you're not going to be able to then talk to your customers about or sell properly. So how should we talk to our customers about it? And it's pretty handy to start having those conversations before you've built it, because otherwise you can get into a tricky situation. During the solve phase, this is our more traditional kind of engineering-led phase. We agree on a minimum scope we think we need to solve. We design it and we build it, and then we test our assumptions with real customers as soon as possible. So we will put it into beta if there's something that we want to learn about, or we roll it out incrementally with feature flags to make sure that we are learning quickly about any potential impact. And then the final phase, which is the closeout phase, is we finalize the solution for full release. So that might mean extra operational readiness changes that we need to take into account for a wide launch if it's something that requires a little bit more challenging operational work. We make it available to all of our customers, and we announce it and we monitor, obviously. And after an appropriate period of time, we evaluate the impact. Kind of, are we on track of achieving the outcomes that originally we were shooting for? It's not just about delivering the feature. It's like, I'm sure we had some outcomes in mind. Are we actually getting those? And have we solved the problem that we originally thought this solution was going to solve? It might mean that we've delivered something, but the problem is still there and we need to iterate on it. And yeah, we might have to continue working on that solution until we get it absolutely right. And that's quite important, because I think one experience I've had over time is that a lot of times once we get to deliver something, that's where we shipped it. Ooh, we're out, like, let's look at something else. But it's so important that we continue kind of evaluating that, and was it even worth it? And have you learned anything from that exercise? These phases might be done extremely quickly for a small iteration. So this is not like forcing you to have super long projects that have to go through all those phases. If it's a small thing, you might get all of those phases done in one day. It's just about thinking about the different areas, and obviously will take longer for bigger projects. And engineers get involved in all of those phases with a more driving role in the solve phase specifically. We make all those projects artifacts available to everyone in the org so that they can learn from each other. We have these close-out reports, which is the outcome reports, and that makes for some super interesting reading when kind of a PM or somebody kind of shares kind of what we learned from those projects. And as you can see here, each phase of the project maps to one of our principles. So this is our process, is our way of sticking to those principles that we have as a business. And it's during these phases, especially the solving phases, as I was saying, that we apply our engineering principles. And because we value speed, we stick to the technologies that we know well and can operationally support effectively. There are big benefits to this, from simplifying dramatically our systems to the ability to have a volunteer out of hours on-call rotation that has been very successful for us. And as per our company values, we optimize for small and simple incremental improvements that we can control and confidently ship without much risk, sometimes at the expense of other trade-offs like cost. Finally, but as importantly, we value collaboration and good intent, and we value growth and improvement. But neither is possible without trust and the opportunity to be vulnerable with others. And this principle is critical for us to identify and address problems promptly, from getting quality day-to-day peer feedback to actually successful incident response kind of retrospectives and reviews. Without that, you're just not going to be able to address the more systemic problems that you're dealing with. I believe that the key to moving fast and guarantee that we are working on the highest priorities is by providing that clear guidance and putting in place the appropriate safeguards kind of applicable to your specific challenges as an organization that would allow the team to work autonomously but with confidence that they are going in the right direction, if that makes sense. I believe that helps my teams and has definitely help us as a site to jump on board the Intercom ship and quickly deliver impact to the business. And I could leave it there, and I'm conscious that we are quite ahead, but there's a few last pieces that I wanted to share with you. There's one more thing that you need to get right, and that we are now going to touch a little bit more to the human part of the work. So we've talked about clear goals and mission and principles and processes. I believe that by being explicit and transparent, you've also, as a side effect, created the foundations of a more inclusive and fair organization. Kind of with those things in place and everybody having a good understanding, it will be easier to set expectations and evaluate performance in a more objective way. So you've gone through all that work. What does it get you? If you did the work, you will have delivered certain outputs and achieve certain outcomes, hopefully good ones. But even if you haven't hit the mark, you will have learned something. And when you do so, don't forget a critical step, which is to celebrate and to learn from the work that you have done. So take a minute to appreciate your work and the work of those around you, and share some unsolicited, encouraging feedback, especially for those that normally get overlooked. And celebrate your team's wins. We celebrate our many launches. This is the launch of Resolution Bot last year, one of our chat products, and this is when we launch multilingual support in the help center. This is on launch day, and we have so much fun when we're about to deliver something quite meaningful to customers. So you've got the war room and then everybody dressed around, and we've had to change things a little bit recently, but it's recognition to me is critical to engagement. And we celebrate big accomplishments, but also celebrate small milestones. And like this is the first time someone deploys to production as soon as they join. They get this toy rocket. And this is a tradition that I took. I think Ollie is in the call. We used to do that at Free Agent. And it's just great to celebrate, to give people that little bit of encouragement. Hey, you're making progress. You are getting there. We celebrate many other occasions, kind of the company birthday actually is coming, the 9th one this Friday, and we all had a little thing on the post for that. But most importantly, we celebrate individuals. And if you remember from earlier, our business mission is making business personal, and we take that mission very, very seriously. And we apply that internally every day by making time for each other. So when we were in the office, we used to all have lunch together at the same time, and it really helps build that bond. Now instead, we play games in a Slack or Hangouts. Like we have a game where you have to post your fridge and people have to guess whose fridge it is, or your Shopify playlist, and it just brings everybody a little bit, connect them in a more personal and human way when we are working together. And if you make me choose the one thing that I've learned that will give you the biggest leverage as a leader is investing in creating an environment where people can be themselves, and fostering collaboration and celebrating difference and uniqueness is key if you want to have a diverse team and an inclusive culture, and you will not make the most of your team otherwise, no matter how many goals and processes and things you have in place. I can very much see the results in the work that we deliver. This is our special way of celebrating every employee's uniqueness. On our work anniversary, our manager and the team members commissioned an intercomic to represent our year at Intercom, highlighting all the things that made it special and unique to you. So going back to the beginning, if you can get the people right, you get the product right. If you can get the product, you'll get the profit. 2 years into this London experiment, where are we today? This approach has helped us to build a very successful culture and team in a short period of time, and it has helped us to weather the curveball the world has thrown us, and still help the business succeed in these trying times, driving our top priority strategic program of work. We have played a key part in delivering our revenue goals for the business these past 2 financial years, and we are now supporting core systems and creating new revenue opportunities through new products built in London. And we are deeply contributing to the future strategy of the business, like other more established parts of the group. If you take a look at our Intercom product updates, you'll see that we've maintained an incredible shipping cadence through the year, and we've been part of multiple big product launches, and we've continued iterating and delivering incremental product improvements for our existing customers every single week. And our customers just now need it more than ever in this new world and with the new requirements. So this is only possible with a highly engaged team with clear goals, direction, so that thorough principles that they understand, and agreed ways of working that continues to get better and better every day, and can move, allows us to move fast. We're growing in numbers. We are over 50 people now in London, just over 30 in engineering. And as we grow, we continue to improve our diversity and create opportunities for career progression. This made me smile last week after our launch. This is one of the engineering managers in London, reflecting on last week, and that's what this is all about to me. It's like people feeling like they're doing meaningful work, they're learning, and they're doing it in a sustainable way, which is more important to us. And has been 2 years of constant change, but we've been able to weather all those changes together and keep an incredible high level of engagement. We've done so through strong support, enablement, collaboration and alignment, and by acting, more importantly, promptly when things break. And this might look all rosy, but a lot of things break, as you can imagine. And in those situations, kind of vulnerability as a leader and clear desire to improve things for all is critical to maintain that team engagement. So a lot of us in London have now our intercomics. Some of them have a couple of them now. The 2-year ones are rolling in. This is my first one, and the next one is coming next month. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's for me. That went a little bit longer than I expected, so apologies, but hopefully that was useful for all of you. Any questions at all? Hold on, trying to see how I can stop. Can I stop presenting?
Hi, Maria.
Hello, well done, George, right?
Yeah, how you doing? I work as a CTO and similar. I've worked in different size companies. One question I had from mostly the beginning of your presentation is, for a technical role, you seem to be deeply involved in company direction, strategy, goal, and a number of things are not necessarily or normally kind of like under the role of a more technical kind of role. When you find yourself in a position like that, how do you get buy-in from kind of like more senior in the company to say, well, I want to say on this, I want to be able to influence the direction of the company in aspects that are not necessarily purely technical, but that still will affect me in the, as you say, the development of the team and achieving those goals.
You do it by demonstrating the impact that it has in your organization, and by demonstrating that you are thinking more holistically and not just about your specific challenges and problems. It's a great question, because actually one of the things, I can't remember if I mentioned it at the beginning or not. So I lead our growth and recognition programs for engineering, and that's just, we have a few different programs like hiring program and whatnot that my peers, kind of some of the directors, we own to make sure that we're pushing forward. And over the last 2 years, I've been investing a lot of my time as well on trying to improve how we do our performance reviews, our compensation, and a bunch of things. And actually, I've been able to work with a people ops organization to share kind of where I think we have some gaps and areas that we need to improve. And a lot of the things that we've been putting in place in engineering are now being rolled out company-wide. So if you can demonstrate that you, ultimately, when you get to our position, you're not an engineering leader, you are a leader of the business, and you need to behave as such. And sometimes you need to prioritize other things that will make the business successful ahead of your specific, challenges and things that you're trying to deal. So I think you need to demonstrate that you have a business mindset and not just a very kind of narrow engineering focused one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good advice. Thank you.
And the other way, the good thing about that is that if you gain that trust when you raise engineering technical specific things that you feel very strongly need to be addressed, then it's more likely that they will trust your judgment and say, okay, yeah, I get why we need to do this level of investment now, because we see that you're thinking about the bigger picture, and that when it matters, you prioritize the sales agenda versus other things. And it's all about, we're in this together. let's make sure that we trust each other and our judgment.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Maria. Carlton Smith speaking.
Hi, Carlton.
Thank you so much for a really interesting, insightful presentation, and in connection with how you've developed your teams, team-based working, and how you've engaged and motivated the staff to improve the culture in terms of alignment to the values of the company. The question I've got really is, did you start in this position, or is it something you've worked hard at to progressively grow over the years? I've gone through various companies, very traditional type companies, and what I found is the challenge to take from more of a traditionalist type of cultural approach within engineering, to take forward and to really engage, to have people really on tune, on beat with the direction the company is wanting to go.
Is something I've learned over time, and I didn't have this view of the world when I started to be a senior leader. It's been through failures and learning what matters and seeing different situations play out that I've kind of started to give more weight and value to certain aspects of my job. Specifically to Intercom, yes, I came in this role and it was for me to figure out how I was going to make site leadership work with Jane when we didn't have prior art. There was no other office at Intercom that has the same setup as us, as an R&D office, and all product development was being done from one place for where it has always been. So we needed to figure out kind of, okay, how is that going to work? We need to make this work for our own sake and the sake of the team. Otherwise, if this fails, we are all out. So I came into the role with a very clear idea of what I needed to do to make that successful. Obviously, it's not just on me and Jane. There was a lot of structure put in place at Intercom that we've tapped into, that has allowed us to do this. So it's been a mixture of bringing the culture and the processes and the way of thinking that was prior in the business and make it work for our own reality, and then add extra things that I think we've been able to contribute to improve not just London, but how Intercom as a whole operates.
Maria, this is Yadu here. Good afternoon, and that was a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
I am VP Sales at a consultancy, and I'm interested in knowing how often does the sales and engineering leadership meet? I presume that's quite often. And how much of a say does engineering have in new product development?
In new product development, engineering has a lot of say. As I said from the beginning, we are part of building the product strategy with our product leaders. So I don't know if other people operate this way. Like for us, we have what we call a triad, which is there's an engineering leader, a product leader, and a design leader working very closely together, and together they are responsible for a strategic piece of work. For us, kind of James and Emmett, who is in Dublin, are responsible for all the support tools. So any new strategy that we build or decisions around what we're going to invest on and build, I have as much of a say as the product leader or the design leader, and we build it together, and we make sure that we are happy kind of with that approach. So in that respect, it's like I have as much of a say on where we are, what we prioritize from a product point of view. With sales, then depending on the program of work, like Jane in this case, she manages the relationship with sales a little bit closer. That we have to divide and conquer. We can be everywhere, but we, as a program of work, we meet regularly with sales to both understand what are the inputs that are coming into the program, how kind of their go-to-market strategy is. The things that I've been more involved with, for example, is when we have some kind of churn threats or one of our customers is having a big problem, especially more the strategic accounts. Like there's a couple of conversations just now that I'm having with sales about, okay, how do we make this possible, or how we set expectations with them that that's not something we can commit to, but we do it in a way that is, that they respond successfully to. So that's when I work more closely with sales, is when we are looking at specific problems with specific accounts, and that we need to manage that relationship and set expectations.
Thank you.
Maria, thanks for another great presentation. Something that you alluded to, and I have experienced, is that this all sounds good in theory, but in practice, described here. Like, what would you say was the area of biggest challenge for you, and how did you address that?
I think the biggest challenge from a personal point of view is you as a leader coming into a new organization, really aligning and learning how other people work and what are the expectations of you as a senior leader. How do you get the context of 8-9 years of a company and be able to represent it successfully and make sure that you are aligned, the way that you're approaching things is aligned how kind of our exec team or leaders expect you to do it. So is really that context and knowledge has caused us some troubles, because maybe sometimes we didn't have all the context and we're pointing teams in a place, but then it's like, no, actually, whoa, that doesn't, we knew about this 3 years ago and these are the reasons we didn't do this thing, and suddenly you just have a vacuum of information that sometimes you trip into, and you need to then is how you manage the reaction. It's like, how do you try to not make those mistakes again, and how do you make sure you build that trust with your leaders, that you are at least doing the best that you can with the information that you have. So that's one aspect that I think is probably from a personal level has been the most challenging for us. From as an office, it's like we've been growing very quickly, and if you've created teams in a very quick period of time, whilst you are still expected to deliver specific outcomes, every time you change a team or split a team or add new people, you are creating so much ambiguity and disruption, and be able to cope with. I know that's been hard on my teams, and I know that there's times that there's been hard expectations of them that they're like, well, it's difficult to work in this environment. Like, I can't be interviewing all these people and at the same time get all my things done. So it's just balance that priorities and be aware kind of the situation for each individual and how it's impacting them and try to make it sustainable. But I know that disruption has been hard for the teams and it's caused challenges sometimes and frustration.
Okay, thanks. If I could follow up on that, one of the other areas is goal setting, which I know can be notoriously difficult. Like, how do you ensure that once the goal is set, like, everybody is actually following the same goal? Because I've seen situations where we think that the goal is clearly defined, but different people have different interpretations of that and therefore are slightly misaligned.
Is communication. Like, we spend a lot of time on cascading communications and making sure there's alignment, and I have, like, with the group managers that report to me, kind of, and we get together, kind of as with Jane and Emmett, our triad, we get together with them every week and we're reviewing the plans and make sure that there's no mistake, there's no misalignment on what the expectations are. Like, when we do the roadmaps, there's an approval process for the roadmaps and we go into detail there, and that's where we get very sharp and very clear on what are we saying we're doing here? Are we committing to get into beta? And is this gonna, what exactly are we gonna be solving? Or what are the different things that we are committing to? So we use those roadmap sessions, approval sessions, to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then cycle goals, check-ins. At the end of the cycle, we do a check-in to make sure, okay, are we still in the same page? Are we aligned with the priorities? Anything has changed from leadership that needs to be passed down and communicated so that we can take it into account. So you cannot over communicate anything. I've learned, that's for sure. And then weekly, we have every week kind of the show and tells, but also every 2 weeks there's a company all hands where we reinforce all those priorities and progress and so on. And then R&D all hands, and we have the London monthly check-in and where we put that information. So just keep on repeating yourself until there's no doubt that everybody knows what's happening.
Fantastic, thank you.
Cool. I'm happy to say a bit more, but I'm conscious that maybe we've run out of time. I don't know, Barry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. What I might do, given I don't think there's anybody else with questions, if anyone else has got any questions directly for Maria, then feel free to unmute your microphone, and I'll keep an eye and invite you to speak. But I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. So we do this at the end of most of the CTO events. We tend to find that half the people stick around and half the people head off. Obviously, we've now gone past half one. I know everyone's very busy, so if you can't hang around, that's absolutely fine. But if you fancy hanging around, if you've got any questions for Maria, I can put you in the same room as Maria. Otherwise, just a chance to do some networking. No more unmuted mics while I've been talking. So I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you so much, Maria. That was a fantastic presentation. We've been doing a lot of work with aspiring speakers recently, and yeah, seeing the slides, it was just so polished. So yeah, really, really interesting. Thanks for that. Sorry for my video cutting out, and thank you, huge thanks for Pedro for holding the fort. I think I finished my introduction before I actually realized, which was somewhat embarrassing if anybody was watching. But yeah, so thanks everyone for hanging around. If anyone does need us for recruitment, please bear us in mind. If anybody's open to mentoring, then please come and find me afterwards, or hit me up on LinkedIn. Other than that, thanks again. I'll hit the breakout room button, so feel free to hang around or log off. Thanks again.